Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So guys, today I'm going to be talking about another succulent that belongs to the genus of Crassula. So guys, I thought that I'm going to continue with all the succulents that belong to the same genus because it's going to be much easy explaining. Otherwise, I'll end up repeating all the same information over and over again, and the basic Crassula information remains the same, so this will avoid the video getting really long. So let me quickly give you a quick recap of what we spoke on the basic Crassula requirements. Now, Crassulas are native to South Africa. They do not prefer temperatures that are very low and they do not prefer temperatures that are too high. So they basically do well in a very moderate temperature, that is around 20 degrees Celsius up to 35 degrees Celsius. The succulent that we're discussing today is called as Crassula Perforata, or also known as string of buttons. Now guys, it's very easy to propagate string of buttons. You can either do a stem cutting or you can separate the offsets. Now unfortunately, my string of buttons do not have offset, so I'm just going to do a stem cutting. Now guys, you can even do leaf propagation for string of buttons, but unfortunately, as with all the other leaf propagations, the leaf propagation can be quite slow, and at times if you have not taken good care of the leaf propagation, it tends to get rotted. So we always want something that can be simple and fast, so you can go with stem cuttings. So all you have to do is just find a stem and just give it a cut. So basically it's quite easy to do a stem cutting because you can definitely find a lot of space between the two leaves, and there you just go ahead and give it a cut. Now the same formula applies whenever you do a cutting of a succulent. Whenever you do a stem cutting, you have to let the stem callus. Now guys, over here the callus period is going to be a little faster because the stem is really very thin, so we do not need to wait for a really long time, but again we have to follow that same protocol of letting it to callus. Now guys, it completely depends upon you. If you want, you can air root it, or if you want, you can directly put it into the soil. But guys, remember, whenever you are letting it to callus, do not keep it in direct sunlight because it will dehydrate the succulent much faster. Because it does not have roots, it cannot absorb water. Not only this succulent, but any succulent, whenever you're keeping it to callus, just ensure that you keep it in indirect bright light where there is a good amount of air circulation, because we definitely want the cuts and the wounds to heal faster. So if there is a good amount of air circulation, the wounds will dry much faster. Now again guys, these cuts must not come in contact with water or moisture, so ensure that it's kept away from any form of moisture or watering. So over here what I'm going to be doing is I'll be adding them in a plastic cup, and I'm going to keep them secured because, as you know, it has been raining quite a lot and there is a lot of moisture around. Today there was a good amount of sunlight, so I thought that I'm going to quickly do a cutting as well as show you to how we can multiply and propagate string of buttons. Now guys, these are a couple of string of buttons that I have over here. Now guys, unfortunately I cannot identify each of them because they were kept in indirect bright light. Apart from that, as I said, we are in the monsoon season and the climate is very cloudy. There is hardly any sunlight, so the colors have faded off. Now the one on the right, I remember this is called Crassula Ivory Tower, but I'm not quite sure the one that's there on my left hand side, but definitely these both are of different varieties. The one on my left slightly has this reddish edges on their leaves, but this one is completely white, and this, I remember, it's called as Ivory Tower, but I'm not quite sure about the other ones. Now guys, these are all the cuttings that I have. Now I have put them in separate plastic containers because they all are of different varieties and I do not want to mix them up. So when I was doing a cutting, I put them into this. Now this is where they are going to be sitting in for a really long time, because I'm going to let them callus as well as I'm going to let them air root as well, and then I'm going to add them into the soil. So meanwhile, as I said, it's been raining a lot, so I'm going to keep them protected away from water and the moisture so that they can sit in a dry spot. So now talking about the watering and the light conditions, now here I have another string of buttons that is placed in this pot. Now you can see this, the leaves have started to turn brown. Now this is because this guy was kept in direct sunlight, and it was receiving a lot of direct sunlight. In fact, it was receiving a lot of afternoon sunlight as well, and due to which you can see that there are a lot of burns. Now there are two reasons why this can happen. Either it can happen due to intense light, and also it can happen when you tend to underwater your string of buttons. Now guys, remember, it belongs to the Crassula family, so they tend to like slight moisture in the soil. Do not let the soil dry out for a very long time, otherwise your succulent will start getting dehydrated. And the worst part about string of buttons is that if they feel that the water is less, they immediately start getting their leaves curled up and they start turning brown in color, like you can see over here. Now another important thing, you have to give them a good amount of light. They need a lot of bright light. So either you can give them indirect bright light with which they will not stretch, but if you want to get that intense color on them, then you'll have to provide them with direct morning sunlight for at least 4 to 5 hours. Now guys, please do not expose them to direct afternoon sunlight. You might end up burning your string of buttons. They are very sensitive to intense light. They tend to get burnt up quite quick. Again guys, whenever you feel that your temperature is warm and you feel that the soil tends to dry out quickly, then you'll have to give a little bit more of frequent watering. Ensure that the soil does not dry out completely. If you feel that around 50 to 60% of the soil is dry, you can go ahead and do the watering. Now guys, talking about pot, you can either go with a plastic pot, you can go with a terracotta, concrete, or a clay pot as well, but you have to check on your watering as well and keep a proper watering schedule. Now guys, over here as you can see, I have a pot full of different varieties of crassulas. Now it sounds really funny when you tend to see, because all of these succulents look really different, but they all belong to the genus of Crassula. You can see there is so much of variation in each succulent, the design, the leaf, the shape. As you can see, everything looks so different, but at the end of the day, they all belong to the genus of Crassula. Now guys, this is Krasula ovata, also commonly known as jade. I will be making a separate video on it, so stay tuned. Now guys, this is jade golem. Again, it is a genus of Crassula, and then we have some more of Crassulas. Again, as you can see, everything looks so different, but they all belong to the same genus. So it's really very fascinating to see all these types of succulents. Now guys, this is my Crassula campfire. Even this is added to the same pot. Now guys, over here I have another form of Crassula. This is called as Krasula Clavata. I will put the picture how it looks when it is dressed. Now this red color was during its summer period when it was dormant. As this is Crassula, it tends to go dormant during the summer season. So that's how Clavata was looking during its dormancy period. But now it's raining, the climate has cooled down, so it's basically growing. You can see that there is a lot of new growth on Clavata. So this is how Clavata looks when it's in its growing period, and it's more red in its dormancy period. And I'm sure you will be able to recognize this one as well, called as Watchain. It's again a genus of Crassula. We have spoken and made a video on it as well. I have a care tips video on it. So guys, you can see over here as well, there is so much of difference in size, in shape, in the texture. Everything looks so different, but yet it belongs to the genus of Crassula. So you can see the amount of variation just in one genus. There is so much of variation when it comes to color, when it comes to the structure, the growth, the shape, the size of the leaves. Everything tends to look very, very different from each other. And this is again another variety of Crassula called as jade golem. So this is another variety. So guys, if you want me to make individual videos on them, like the care tips on these succulents, then please let me know. I will definitely be more than happy to do so. But over here, I just wanted to give you an idea, like what are the different varieties of succulents that are under the genus of Crassula. And I just wanted to give you an overview how they tend to look. There is so much of difference between each variety. You can see that they don't even look similar to each other. Here again, we have another variety of Crassula. Now all the Crassulas that you have seen so far, this is extremely different. It is very, very different from the rest of the Crassulas that you have seen. In fact, I was not even aware that this also belongs to the genus of Crassula. So this was also very new to me. I recently got to know, probably 2 or 3 months back, I got to know that this also belongs to the genus of Crassula. So guys, as I said, the basic care tips for Crassula remains the same as we spoke in the last video. I'll put the link in the description below. You can check it out. But guys, there is one thing about string of buttons that I really like, that they usually do not get affected with pests. They do not get affected with mealybugs or scaly insects. It's quite rare, but in case if they do get attacked, you can use your organic solution, whatever you have been using so far. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.